Hello and welcome to our last King Lear monologue here on Shakesyear. Yeah, it kind of snuck up on me. I knew it was coming, and then the last couple Shakesyears have been from weird places. And today is the very last monologue that we have from this play, and it's from Edgar in Act 5, Scene 3. And again, this is going by the folio. This is not going by other versions, so other versions may have other monologues after this particular one, but since we are going by the folio, today is the last one. So, Act 5, Scene 3, things are kind of going to crap. Lear and Cordelia have been captured. They've been taken prisoner by the English. Edmund has sent a note that they should be murdered today while they're in jail. Albany wanted Edmund to turn them over to him. Edmund's like, I'll do that tomorrow. So then Albany arrests Edmund and calls him a traitor. And then Edgar, in disguise, comes out and also accuses Edmund of a bunch of terrible things. And Edmund's like, normally I would ask to see who my accuser is, but I don't care. You're a little twerp. I'm gonna fight you. So they fight, and Edgar actually wins, and Edmund falls. And when he falls, Goneril's like, ah! Oh, and the reason why Regan is also not like, ah, is because she left a few minutes ago with a stomach ache. But Goneril's like, ah, and Albany's like, oh, shut your face. Here I have the letter where you told Edmund to kill me. And she's like, yeah, so what if I did? And she leaves the stage as well. And then Albany goes over to Edgar, and he's like, seriously, can we know who you are? And Edgar's like, haha, it's me, Edgar, I'm back. And Albany's like, I was always on your side. And Edgar's like, yeah, I know. And Albany's like, how do you know the whole story of what happened to Gloucester and his problems? And Edgar says, by nursing them, my lord. List a brief tale, and when 'tis told, oh, that my heart would burst. The bloody proclamation to escape that followed me so near, oh, our lives' sweetness, that we the pain of death would hourly die rather than die at once, taught me to shift into madman's rags, to assume the semblance that very dogs disdained. And in this habit met I my father, with his bleeding rings, their precious stones new lost. Became his guide, led him, begged for him, saved him from despair, never revealed myself to him until some half hour passed when I was armed. Not sure, though hoping of this good success, I asked his blessing, and from first to last told him our pilgrimage. But his flawed heart, alack, too weak to the conflict to support, twixt two extremities of passion, joy, and grief, burst smilingly. And that's the end of his monologue. So what he's saying here is he knows Gloucester's story because he's the one that's been helping Gloucester all along, and he was doing it in disguise until like a half an hour ago. He decided to tell Gloucester that he was his son and tell him the whole story of how Edgar came to be poor Tom. And Gloucester's heart burst from it, because he was so happy to see Edgar and so sad for what he had done to Edgar and mourning for his eyes and all that sort of thing. So Gloucester is now dead, which is very sad. And then a messenger comes running in and is like, oh my goodness, check out this knife. Goneril just stabbed herself, and while she stabbed herself, she admitted to poisoning Regan. So now both of the daughters are dead. And Edmund is lying there dead on the floor. And then somebody's like, wait a second, and what happened to Lear? And Edmund's like, oh, but yeah, he's in jail. Oh, and maybe I should not be a terrible person and tell you that I ordered that they be killed. So maybe somebody should go and help them before that order is carried out. And then he basically dies. And they're like, we should bring Goneril and Regan's bodies back out. And so they do. And everybody's looking at this horrible scene. And they're like, what about Lear? And we got to save Lear. And let's go get him. And then Lear enters with the body of Cordelia. Now, oftentimes it's an older gentleman playing Lear who doesn't have the physical strength to carry her. So they'll do other things. He'll be carrying her dress, or he'll be pushing a wheelbarrow that has her in it, or whatever. On Broadway, they dropped her in from the ceiling. Cordelia was hanged in prison, and Lear was unable to save her. And he comes in just wailing in grief over the loss of his child. So now he's surrounded by the bodies of all three of his daughters who are dead, and he is not handling it well, and he yells at all the other people in the room and calls them heartless, and he insists that he could have saved her, and they're all like, wow, this is really sad. And Albany is like, well, I guess I'm going to pledge allegiance back to Lear and say that until Lear dies, he's king, because that's how that should go. And Lear looks at Cordelia again, and he's like, wait a second, maybe she's alive. She's look. And then Lear dies. Oh, sorry, Kent showed up in there somewhere too. When the body is in there, Kent showed up to say goodbye to Lear. He sees the entrance with the body. As Lear is mourning, he recognizes Kent and tells Kent that he's welcome, but doesn't quite make the connection that Kent was this servant that was following him the whole time. So that all gets reconciled. Anyway, then Albany says that Lear should be king until he dies, and then Lear dies, and they're like, what now? Because Regan's dead, Cornwall's dead, Goneril's dead, Edmund's dead, Gloucester's dead, Lear's dead, Cordelia's dead, presumably the fool is dead. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of them left. So Albany turns to Edgar and to Kent and says, the two of you should take over rule of the country until we find anything better to do. And Kent says something along the lines of, I have a long journey to go. My master bids me. I must not say no. And if you want to interpret that as Kent is now going to go fall on his sword to die alongside Lear, you're welcome to. If you want to take that as Kent has other things that he needs to tie up on Lear's behalf, you're welcome to do it that way too. And then Edgar just says a sad little bit about how these people who have lived so long and seen so much, those of them of the younger generation will never live lives of that caliber and of that fullness. And then the play ends. So it ends very much on a downer, with lots of dead bodies on the stage, and lots of dead bodies off the stage. And yeah, I think one of the reasons why King Lear is fascinating to me is, before I read it, there was in certain circles, there's lots of people that say that Goneril is like one of the most evil Shakespearean characters that there is. And then of course there's Regan who tries to outdo Goneril in some of her cruelties and things like that. But I think that the play is most effective when everybody is doing the things that they do because they honestly think that they're the right things. And if you're able to look at this play from all of those different vantage points, like, yes, Lear's daughters treated him horribly, but I mean, Goneril as the eldest maybe should have inherited all of the land, but then he split it in 3, so she got a third of what she expected to get in her inheritance. So she's got, miffed, and then he destroyed her house, and he cursed her with sterility and everything. So I think this is one of those plays where I don't think anybody's really the bad guy. There's a couple manipulators, and there's a couple of like sort of conniving things that happen, but I think that pretty much everybody in this play believes they're doing the right thing, and that's what's so fascinating about it, and that's what's so tragic about it at the end, when all of them die and none of them get what they want. So anyway, yeah, it's a beautiful play. It's a beautiful play. I hope you've enjoyed the journey through King Lear with me. And tomorrow gets to be new play day. And we're going to start in on King Richard II, which is another heartbreaking play. Don't worry, there's going to be a slew of comedies coming up when we get to the M's. Just have a couple more until we get there. But yeah, King Richard II starts tomorrow. Get ready. Mwah.